Welcome back, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in. I super appreciate it. This week, we're going to be looking at one of my favorite N64 games of all time, Mystical Ninja starring Goemon. I love this freaking game so much. I think gameplay-wise is amazing. Music is amazing. It's just so good. And it's hilarious. It's good. So, what do I actually think of the game? Is it considered to be one of my top 10 favorite N64 games of all time? I'm not sure. But without further ado, let's check out the review. Here's the intro. Well, the development of this game is not super huge. There are only a couple things I see that were major differences to the final game that got cut out. But this series is interesting, as most of the games of the series, except for a few select ones, were not put in North America. While in Japan there are so many. And there's so many I can't even count. But for this game, Konami had an entirely different team that worked on most of these games, as some of the main Japanese producers wanted to take a break. Early development shows an impact fight where he has a gun-wielding foe in a modern city. In June 1997, the game came to E3 with about 70% of the renders that made the game about 70% finished. Although the game was mostly finished by September of that year, the game was delayed to February 1998 in the United States. But it did come out in 1998 in North America as Mystical Ninja starring Goemon. But also, when we get to the plot of the game, there is some hilarious dialogue that I won't actually be bringing up in the plot, so I'll bring it up here. The dialogue comes from the wise man. He's upset that he lost his car magazines after his house blows up, and says the bad guys offered him car magazine to help him out. In Japan, it's straight up hentai/porn. The game was actually released April 16th, 1998. The game came out with the name Mystical Ninja starring Goemon. The story begins with what seems to be two men running out of a restaurant, and one seems to be half naked. After this little incident, we see a weird spaceship flying high in the sky and over the city. We cut away to what looks like to be a castle that was taken over by these weirdos. Goemon and his friend Ibisumaru decide to investigate. That is, after Ibisumaru puts some clothing on. After getting a chain pipe, the two head to the castle of Oedo. And after getting through the dungeon, the two take on the weirdo that has been guarding the castle. Goemon and Co save the king and queen, and then they go stay at Goemon's house. The party leaves to go to the next town, and after being stopped by another weirdo, or I guess alien, I don't really know what to call them at this point. Goemon and Co seem to call him a weirdo, so I'll probably refer to them as weirdo through most of the review. The gang defeats the weirdo in a robot battle, and they get to Zazentown where they find a new person to team up with, a government agent named Kai. After getting through Zazentown, the party make it to the next dungeon in the hot springs and save the missing children that were taken out of Zazentown and most of Japan. The party saves the day and is now off to the other side of Japan. They then get batteries to get their final party member, Sasuke. Oh, I forgot to mention, in Zazentown you actually get Sasuke, but he doesn't work. And then they get to the next castle and defeat another weirdo. The party heads to Kyushu and notices Goemon's girlfriend is heading to deliver baked goods, only to have Kyushu whisked away into outer space. The party heads to a Snowtown festival village and make their way to a submarine. After another robot boss battle, the party heads to Zazentown to get this, I got nothing here, a cucumber, and gets the last miracle item. The party heads to space with the final showdown beginning, and after this lovely stage show, Goemon and Co take on the final robot and save the world, to have an angry mob of girls attack them with the final credits rolling. Ibisumaru! Well, as for the story, it's zany, it's funny, it's strange, and the humor is so good. Bad puns and stupid jokes, this game has it all. To be honest, because this game is a funny sort of script for a game, I cannot really say the story is bad because it's pretty unique actually. Also, one of the funniest things is the wise man basically working for the bad guys because they gave him I already talked about this. Wait a minute, I'm not. All that aside, I think most people with a sense of humor should get a kick out of the story. I can remember laughing out loud during my playthrough of this game. Will the story, albeit strange, albeit hilarious? Get on with it! What? Fine. I can't do nothing in this review. Well, as for starters in this game, you may have seen it is a platforming game with some unique things about it. The first thing is you can move and jump to get to platform, and getting through most of these platforming challenges is a real key to getting through most of the dungeons and getting to the next destinations. You also collect other weapons along the way. Some help make platforms turn into ice and help you get across gaps, and some are entirely useless. Like seriously, I never once used Kai's bazooka. It's basically easy enough to get, but you never really use it. And that is kind of one of my issues with this game. To be quite honest, the items in this game besides your regular weapons are really situational, or I have no use for it at all. Honestly, one thing about this game is you do use your characters throughout the entire game. You never get to use their special abilities as much, as well as you don't get to use their weapons as much, which is pretty disappointing. Although there are situational things as I stated before. I think, for example, when you get the Flaming Ryu, you can light up a way to get into the second dungeon, but that's the only time you use it. And although I do think there are disappointing things and situational things about the items, I think the combat is actually pretty fun. And also the abilities you get are super cool to use as well. Kai can turn into a mermaid, Sasuke can jump high, Abusumaru can shrink, and Goemon can turn into a Super Saiyan. I don't understand why they made him look like Goku too. That's kinda strange. But let's look at the dungeons in this game. There are 5 of them, and I guess you could technically say there's 6, but I'm just gonna go ahead and go with 5. I actually really like the dungeons in this game. They are super unique and causes not too much brain work, but do present different challenges that I feel that most N64 games don't offer, unless it's Zelda. I mean, honestly, this game has a Zelda feel to it. You go around to the world getting from dungeon to dungeon, and then after you beat the set dungeon, you move to the next dungeon and get the miracle item. You don't get any heart containers after, but you do get what are called fortune cat dolls. One color is silver and the other is gold. Silver fortune cat dolls take $4 to get your health up, while gold ones just take 1. And again, it's just like Zelda. There are a ton more comparisons I can make, but I still feel like this game does enough to be unique. First, the boss fights are fun and unique, and the best ones are the robot ones. They really present a different gimmick that is really fun and also has a kick butt theme to it, but doesn't hinder away from the core gameplay. And speaking of music in this game, the music is so freaking good. I mean, it is so good that I have to say this is the best N64 music in the entire N64 library in my opinion. Yep, you heard it right. I said best on the N64. The soundtrack does not only have amazing tracks, but it progresses as you get through the dungeon and through the game. In general, my favorite theme has to be the Oedo Castle theme. I catch myself humming this tune around my house all the time. It is just so freaking catchy, and graphically speaking, this is also one of the best looking games on the N64. However, due to this being an ambitious title, the game could slow down in certain places. Not as bad as Banjo-Tooie, but hey, they were way more concerned with graphics than frame rate back then. All in all, the gameplay makes this game really fun. Well, with that being said, I really do think this is an excellent platformer. The dungeons are awesome and not too difficult to actually get through. And the game's not too long, which to me actually makes it very much more accessible to other players. And not to mention the music is bumping. Oh yeah. Mystical Ninja starring Goemon is criminally underrated. Sure, there are other games in my opinion that are way more underrated, like Donald Duck Going Quackers, Robot Rocket on Wheels, and Rayman 2, just to name a few. But this game is just a great adventure, full of awesome music and great humor. Thanks for watching, folks, and I'll see you in the next episode.